Imagine someone decided to create a god, not one from the heavens, nor from sacred scriptures, but from an old television screen, from a fictional character known for his perfect performance and timeless sense of humor. In the small American town of Kewagan, amid ordinary streets and family homes, an unexpected idea emerged: the creation of a new church, a faith not inspired by any traditional religious text, but by an old TV show called Happy Days. This church is not merely a joke, nor just a comedic episode. It is the Church of Holy Fonz, a virtual religious entity represented by a character whose very satire was meant to turn him into a symbol of spirituality, a tool for criticizing religious and social culture. But behind the laughter and mockery lie profound philosophical questions and religious debates. What does religion truly mean? What makes something or someone sacred? And how can popular culture transform into a belief system? This is not just the story of an animated episode. It is an intellectual experiment, conscious satire, and expressive social critique, through which the creators of the episode sought to raise questions about faith, authority, and humanity's ability to create the sacred in an age of entertainment and digital media. So, stay with us till the end. And don't forget to support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel so you never miss anything new. The story begins in the home of the Griffin family, where Francis Griffin, Peter's father, appears, intending to baptize his grandson Stewie in a traditional Catholic manner. But, as sometimes happens in real life, or in the fantasy of animated cartoons, the circumstances can ruin even the simplest rituals. The water that Francis used for the baptism was contaminated, causing Stewie to fall ill, which forced the family to isolate him in a sterile environment. This seemingly simple, comical incident opened the door to a larger question. What doctrine could suit this family? And what kind of faith could unite its members? Amid this crisis, Peter Griffin, a character well known for his reckless satire and exaggeration, decided to create a new religion. But this religion was not drawn from a heavenly book or any sacred text. Rather, it came from his favorite television character, the Fonz, the young, stylish character who could always solve problems with a single smile and a brief remark. Sit on it. With this decision, the first United Church of the Fonz was born. The church did not exist on Earth in the traditional sense. No temples were built, and no daily or seasonal rituals were publicly proclaimed. Instead, it was a conceptual, legal entity, officially registered as a religious organization in the United States, but infused with humor and satire, carrying a social critique aimed at all traditional religious practices. The goal was simple, yet profound: to create a space for reflection and thought, where people could question, mock, and reconsider their own beliefs. Episode scripts became like holy books, and familiar expressions such as "sit on it" and "let us hay" were transformed into symbolic rituals, combining humor with critical analysis of society and religion. Peter was not alone in this endeavor. He was surrounded by other characters like Francis, Stewie, and sometimes family friends, who helped turn the comedic situation into a symbolic experiment. This project explored the relationship between popular culture and religion, as well as between satire and seriousness. From here emerges a deeper question: how did a cartoon character transform into a satirical religious symbol in a contemporary society? The answer lies in the flexibility of the American legal environment. U.S. legislation, under the umbrella of constitutionally guaranteed freedom of religion, allows groups and churches to be registered with relative ease, without the need to prove a solid doctrine or a long history of practice. This legal framework enabled the emergence of dozens of unusual cases over the decades, such as the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, known as Pastafarianism, founded by students in 2005 as a satirical protest against teaching intelligent design in schools. They turned pasta into a deity, culinary attire into ritual clothing, and officially celebrated their Mass in the form of a spaghetti dish. Similarly, the Church of the Subgenius, which emerged in the 1980s as a mix of satire and avant-garde art, elevated a fictional character named Bob to the status of prophet, using dark humor to critique consumer culture. The existence of such examples shows that the founding of the Church of the Fonz was not just a passing joke. It was part of a long American tradition of using the law as a tool for experimentation, satire, and re-examining established values. The most important question remains: why was the Fonz specifically chosen over anyone else? This character from Happy Days was not merely a comedic figure, he became an icon in American culture, associated with self-confidence, charisma, and the ability to resolve crises with humor and ease. At a time when young people were searching for a symbol that balanced rebelliousness with positivity, the Fonz embodied the image of the simple savior, needing neither superpowers nor sacred texts, only a smile and a brief remark that could dissolve tension. This dimension made him, in a way, a satirical prophet in popular imagination. Therefore, his selection reflected a deeper idea: that cultural symbols derived from television screens can replace traditional religious symbols in the consciousness of some modern communities. When we look at this religion, we see that it is not merely a comedic entity, but an intellectual experiment that raises deep questions about the nature of faith and religion itself. At the heart of the philosophy of this church, the character the Fonz from Happy Days is not worshipped because he is miraculous or supernatural, but because he represents a symbol of strength, courage, and the ability to positively influence the lives of others. The church's fundamental belief is based on integrating elements from Catholicism with elements of popular culture, so that television scripts are transformed into holy texts, and the ethical behavior of the Fonz becomes the standard for conduct within the church's virtual community. Here, rituals are not about forgiveness or immortality, but about symbolism and gesture. Respecting the symbolic nature of the character parallels the respect that believers give to traditional religious symbols. From its humorous symbolic perspective, the Church emphasizes the following points. Symbolic sanctification. The Fonz is sanctified not because he is a god, but because he is a role model, a moral and social guide, combining courage, a playful spirit, and problem-solving ability. Satirical critique of traditional beliefs. By turning a television character into the center of a doctrine, the Church raises questions about what makes something or someone sacred. Does sacredness come from divine power or from symbolic and social influence? Reconsideration of rituals. Church rituals are neither daily nor seasonal, but symbolic, based on episode scripts and expressions taken from the show. Every phrase carries a dual meaning: humor and social critique. The Church also encourages its followers to think critically, understanding that the symbols are not real in the traditional sense, yet they hold power for reflection on religious and social practices. From here emerges a deeper philosophical comparison. In traditional religions, we find sacred symbols, such as prophets and saints, regarded as intermediaries between humans and God, sources of revelation and miracles. In the case of the Church of the Fonz, however, the symbol is merely a television character, with no revelation or miracles, yet it is afforded symbolic sanctification simply because the community decided to consider it so. Here arises the fundamental question: is sacredness an objective property linked to divine power, or is it merely a collective social act, where people agree to confer special meaning upon a character or object? This question leads us directly to the theory of French sociologist Émile Durkheim on the sacred and the profane. Durkheim asserted that the sacred is not necessarily what is connected to God or the supernatural, but what society defines as different, distinguished, worthy of respect, and separated from ordinary daily practices. In this sense, the sanctification of the Fonz within this satirical church perfectly aligns with Durkheim's theory. The community, even if a small virtual or satirical one, is what creates the sacred and assigns it meaning. At the heart of this philosophy, emerges an even larger question. If religion can be inspired by a fictional character, does that mean anything can become sacred simply by being considered a symbol of values and meaning? And is faith, at its core, an individual act arising from inner conviction? Or is it a collective practice that requires societal agreement to gain its power? The answer offered by the Church is not direct. It relies on personal reflection. It is an invitation to viewers and society to question religion, authority, and the sacred in an age dominated by popular culture. In the early years of its founding, the goal was not to amass large crowds or impose strict daily rituals, but to create a symbolic and experimental space where members could interact with popular culture and religion in a humorous and critical way at the same time. The Church's main activities took various forms, yet all of them combined education, reflection, and clever satire. Most church meetings were held online, where members gathered in virtual rooms to discuss episode scripts, the Fonz's expressions, and their symbolic significance. These discussions combined analysis of the characters' ethical behaviors with examinations of the social lessons embedded within the show. Members referred to each other as the Shiny Ones, a nod to the Fonz's leather jacket and the touch of joy he added to every situation. The church organizers also arranged workshops, blending philosophy, social critique, and media studies, where participants discussed how symbolic characters could influence individual and societal behavior. There were training workshops aimed at enhancing critical thinking, understanding the relationship between popular symbols and the sacred, and exploring how contemporary culture can generate new beliefs or critique traditions. In the absence of physical locations, the church relied on digital forums and social media, where members could pose questions, share ideas, or even offer symbolic prayers to the Fonz. This form of activity made the church an innovative model in integrating digital culture with religious symbolism, without the need for strict hierarchical organization or traditional constraints. Although the church carried a humorous tone, the purpose of every activity or ritual was self-reflection and societal critique. Using television expressions and characters as religious symbols was not merely a joke. It was a method to illuminate deeper questions about the meaning of religion, symbolic authority, and the role of popular culture in shaping modern beliefs. In this way, this satirical religion became a comprehensive social experiment, combining humor and education. The church did not aim to control its followers or impose doctrine, but to create a space for conscious questioning, where popular culture could serve as a tool for critical thinking and reflection on religion and society. Despite the humorous and symbolic nature woven into the Church of the Holy Fonz, its path was neither smooth nor free of obstacles. Since its founding, the church sparked waves of controversy, both from within the religious community and outside it. Some viewed it as merely an extended joke or an attempt to mimic religion in a ridiculous manner. Public acceptance was far from easy, as the symbolic sanctification of a television character provoked the ire of traditionalists who saw it as a violation of religious and social norms and a challenge to acceptable behaviors in conventional spiritual practice. Criticism was not confined to public opinion. It extended to religious and intellectual circles. Some saw the church as an attempt to secularize religion or reduce it to a simplified form, blending humor and critique. Others argued that turning a fictional character into the focal point of a doctrine, even symbolically, threatened the essence of traditional religious practice and raised fundamental questions about the meaning of sacredness itself. At the same time, the church faced internal challenges that were no less significant. Not all members agreed on the interpretation of symbols or the best way to perform symbolic rituals. Some demanded that the church become a more serious educational space, focusing on social and philosophical critique, while others preferred to preserve the spirit of humor and satire, considering it the very essence of the experience. These differences sparked long discussions about the church's goals, the meaning of symbolic sacredness, and whether participation should be expanded to include more interested individuals outside the small digital community that had formed around it. The media also posed an additional challenge. Newspapers and websites quickly discovered the church, and often focused more on the humorous aspect of the phenomenon than on its critical or philosophical dimensions. This forced the church organizers to clarify their philosophy and explain their objectives to the public, while striving to maintain the intelligent satire that defined their identity. Despite all these conflicts, the church did not retreat, nor did it change the essence of its philosophy. On the contrary, it worked to strengthen its critical and intellectual message by organizing virtual workshops and encouraging discussions among members about the relationship between religion and popular culture, and reflecting on the meaning of symbols and their impact on human behavior. The message was clear. The church is not a real act of worship, but a space for critical thinking, intelligent satire, and symbolic reflection, where popular culture can become a tool to understand religion and society in the modern era. Conclusion: between satire and seriousness, between comedy and philosophy, the Church of the Holy Fonz remains an example of how popular culture can raise profound questions about religion and the sacred. Its followers believed that beliefs are not always confined to ancient sacred texts. They can emerge from anywhere, even a television screen. The Church did not seek to control its followers or impose strict rituals. Instead, it offered a space for free thought, where individuals could reflect on symbols and understand themselves and their society in new ways. The Church's final message is clear: the sacred can be symbolic, faith can be an experience, and humor can sometimes serve as a pathway to a deeper understanding of what makes us human. And with that, we reach the end of today's video. Don't miss the chance to stay updated by subscribing to the channel and activating the notification bell so you receive all the latest content.